So, the question I want to explore today is, if the world needs energy from countries it can trust, why wouldn't it come from Canada? So I'm at the Global Energy Show in Calgary today, and this morning I listened to Canada's Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, Tim Hodgson. Here's what he said. His argument was that the world increasingly wants reliable energy from trusted suppliers. That the question isn't whether that demand exists, the question instead is whether Canada is prepared to meet it, and whether Canadians will benefit from the jobs, the investment, the government revenues, and the prosperity that come with supplying it. Now, one theme that Minister Hodgson returned to several times was that Canada already has many of these ingredients. We've talked about this together before. We have the resources, the workers, the expertise, the rule of law, strong Indigenous partnerships, and access to not one, not two, but 3 oceans. What Canada hasn't always had, especially in the past maybe decade, is access to global markets from within our own land to our own ports. Now, that's beginning to change, at least in words, I would say. And so he pointed to LNG exports from West Coast, growing access to Asian and European markets, new infrastructure projects as part of this major projects office, as signs that Canada is now entering into a new era of energy exports. Another theme that he brought up was that Canada shouldn't be choosing from one form of energy over another, and I completely agree with this. So his vision, as with many of us, is all of the above. Yes to oil and gas, yes to hydroelectricity, yes to renewables, yes to nuclear, critical minerals, carbon capture, transmission infrastructure. Not one instead of the other, not debating winners or losers, but just building more of what our country and other countries need. Because according to Hodgson this morning, Canada will need significantly more electricity in the year ahead. For our homes, for manufacturing, for data centers and our AI, for electric vehicles and all the other things we're electrifying, for critical minerals projects, for technologies that haven't been built. All these things will depend on more electricity. Now, one line from the speech captured that idea. He said, Canada needs to build an electricity system that can, and I quote, give ourselves more than anyone can take away from us. And that kind of hit home when we're talking about security so much right now, and it connected to another point he made. Energy policy, just frankly, is no longer just energy policy. It's our economic policy, it's investment policy, it's trade policy, it's security policy, and frankly, it's Canadian identity policy. So the argument was that countries competing for investment, bring stuff here, jobs here, they're always getting sort of the same set of questions. And they are, is there power? Is it reliable? Is it affordable? Can my project get permitted? Can the infrastructure get built? And Minister Hodgson, his position today was that Canada's answer to those questions should and is yes. He pointed to transmission projects and carbon capture, LNG exports, oil and gas development, nuclear energy and new plants, nuclear fuel, major infrastructure as such a huge group of examples of Canada already moving that direction. And then he ended with a message aimed at investors. And when I say investors, I don't just mean like some guys with money hidden on Wall Street. I mean countries that want to invest. Germany is wanting to invest in us. Japan wants to invest in us. South Korea wants to invest in us. And they, when he's saying to them, look at Canada's workforce, look at our Indigenous partnerships, look at global demand for energy, look at the infrastructure that we are building, and then bring your capital here to Canada. Bring your technology, your businesses, partner with us and build with us. Now, whether you agree with that vision that Minister Hodgson has or with the execution, which is a whole other conversation, that's not the argument that he put forward today. Canada can be a trusted supplier in a volatile world. The world needs what we in Canada have. And opportunities like this just don't come along very often. The world is not waiting for Canada. And so it's important that Canada is not waiting either. Now, to wrap it up, what does that mean for you? The more time I spend in rooms like this at the Global Energy Show or the other conferences and think tanks and, closed door things that I get to be in, the more I'm convinced that energy conversations are really rarely just about energy. They're really conversations about jobs, affordability, investment, security. Really, they're about our place in the world. And whether you agree with everything that was said on stage or not, it's really hard to leave a room like that without feeling that these conversations matter. Because the choices being discussed today will affect every Canadian. And after only one morning at Global Energy Show, I have a feeling we're just getting started. More to come later this week. I'm Lynn Exner. You're smart enough.